We're still 1 minute
But
away.
it's the same mentality.
Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, June the 26th, 2023 at 6 p.m. And I'd like to remind all participants, it may be advised that the meetings to be recorded for public access and broadcast purposes. So with that, I would like to call the meeting to order, and can I have an adoption of the agenda, please? So moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Colwell. Any questions to the motion?
We have one item, two items actually. I think we're gonna switch presentation number 1, presentation number 2, so that Corporal Glow can go first, as long as everyone is okay with that, so we can not keep him for the full evening. And then the other piece is that since the agenda was published on Thursday, if it's the will of council, we do have an update that can be added under closed. So right now we have an agenda item under land, and if it's the will of council, we can add one as well under 68(1)(f) of the Local Governance Act, which is related to information containing legal opinions or advice of the local government by its solicitor. But it's after the agenda was published, so we cannot do that unless we have unanimous consent by or from council.
So you're looking for
A motion to adopt the agenda as amended. Yeah,
for both items or separately?
Just
both.
as amended.
Yeah, as
For both?
amended. Yeah.
I'll move.
Moved by Councillor Glant, seconded by Councillor Thorne. Questions to the motion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe and Nathan?
Nathan said yeah.
Okay. Motion carried. With that, we'll move on. There's forms for conflict of interest in the middle of the table. Please fill that out should you have a conflict and present it to the clerk. We'll move on to item number 4, new business. And we will ask Corporal Kevin Glode of the Southeast District RCP to make the presentation.
Yes, sir. Well, get me on the spot. Thank you. I don't have much, really, like I said in my last meeting, I like to come here and answer all your questions. Instead of me coming here and present stuff. If you have anything in particular, I can obviously ask and come back and present stuff. That's something I want to emphasize and comes back to the community and reporting crime, right? It's important. A lot of people have the mentality of, okay, well, I'm not gonna report because my shed wasn't locked and nothing they're gonna do about it. Well, I just gave an example before the meeting. Sometimes you're right, we're not gonna find who did it. Other times we will find who did it. So it's harder for us after to track down people who don't call, because when there's a rash, it's more than one person usually, right? So it's really important to track it down for stats purposes. Yes, we're busy, but we gotta show we're busy. And like I said, if we cut the suspect, now we get more work to do, because we gotta track people down, gather statement, take picture of his, this is yours, this is yours. So it just makes our life easier, and I mean, we're equipped for, like I mentioned in the past, the callback units are there to take calls like that. If your vehicle was not locked and you get the computer stolen, call it in. An officer will call you back within 48 hours, will at least document the file. So each file is documented anyway. Under your name, your date of birth, we can find any file that you call as a complainant, whatever, we know everything. So yeah, it's really important for the community in general, everybody, to report, right? Eyes and ears also, if you see something that's not right at night, well, it's your duty to call it in and say, this is suspicious activity. I don't think this guy should be by the school at this time.
Right.
It's free. So give us a call. We'll make a patrol. It's come back to accountability, being a citizen of Salisbury, any place, call it in, we'll respond. We all know sometimes the response time can be longer, but I mean, it's her job, so don't be shy. That's my point.
Could we add that to our newsletter, we'll write up, and obviously what Corporal's talked about, but perhaps as well, just even with the online reporting mechanism as well, kind of the two, they're different, but.
In the last month or two, just in Salisbury, I know 2 incidents, specific incidents where one was like 2 individuals were arrested. The other, like the same day after they did some stolen items and vehicles and stuff like that during the night. So people in the morning when they wake up, they realize their car got broken into and called it us and all that. The other incident I remember is that it happened about a week period. But our crew unit managed to arrest the suspect with a stolen truck, towards Sussex area. The truck was full of items from someplace here in Salisbury, right? So, just to put everything back, and this particular file, I know I had to call people from Salisbury, to advise them, listen, your stuff was missing, without going into personal details, but, and their answer was like, yeah, well, I thought it was like a petty theft and I didn't call it in. I don't know. So you're right, like sometimes we're not gonna find who did it, sometimes we will. So it's really putting the onus on people to call us. And, that way it makes our life easier. And I mean, if we found some stuff that you lost because somebody stole it, I'm sure those people are happy to get it back. So sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, but it's just important to call it. Any questions?
Well, that makes really good sense. Are you seeing your volume of calls going up around here, or what's been happening?
Lately, there was a few, like I said, a few rash that I can think of, and both incidents were, we found who did it, so it's a good thing. But not more than, calls or volumes are up everywhere, I believe. Is it a question also like people calling, maybe? I think there's more crime personally, everywhere, drug addiction, like the problem in town, we'll go outside town and, it's our job security, right?
Are there any like scams that we should be aware of? When I say a scam, I mean like a theft, like where just because I know somebody that was involved in one of these on the Coverdale Road,
Mhm.
where the individuals were going and knocking on the front door and to verify that nobody was there, and then they go behind the house and they break in from the back side of the house.
Yeah, that's,
Yeah, so it's like, I'm just asking in general, are there any of those,
none
you
of
know,
those
kind
I'm
of things going
aware.
on right now?
None of those I'm aware. Those situations need to be called in, like, 911. Sometimes people have hard time to decide, okay, is it a 911 or not a 911? Well, you know, if you don't call 911, you're gonna wait maybe 10, 15 minutes. But if you see somebody at your neighbor's house, it is emergency, so call 911. And, we'll go regarding other fraud. There's a lot of online fraud.
Mm,
Obviously, a lot. And most of them, not much we can do. It comes back to knowing, not to share any personal information
mhm,
on phone. I know a lot of people say they know this, but sometimes people that get caught,
mhm,
they say, "Oh, I should have known better."
Hmm.
And I don't know how they do it, but they get access to your Facebook,
mhm.
personal friends, family, and they say your friends in jail, and they, like, sometimes you're questioning yourself, so if it this happened, but every time they ask you a personal question, I mean, I got those phone calls every day on my phone, and
Mhm.
I just hang up, but, there's a lot of those, and a lot of people get caught into those and send money somehow, or, yeah, it's sad to see, but there's a lot. And to investigate those, it's really hard because it's behind a computer.
Mhm.
It's almost impossible. Most of them are from other countries,
Mhm.
so they just come back to,
Are there any, again, I don't know if you offer them or whether the banks offer them, but are there any training little groups that could be brought forward to some more seniors in the community, or?
I'll see what I have. I might have a few emails on that. I can send it to you. But, training, no, it's just come back to accountability, and your bank obviously will work with you. If you have any doubts, go see them. They'll let you know they can freeze the account, but most of them, it's because people give access, or they'll
Right.
call you, they say you have a virus on your laptop, and, I'll fix it if you, then you provide your information, you're done, right? Kids sometimes with Snapchat, you know, extortion. Some people will send images and then they're gonna ask for money. We see it all the time. But again, it's comes back to, educate or kids, and it could be young people, older people, but everybody get caught into it, and we see it often. It's just sad that we don't have, I mean, it's not like on TV where you see, they have, technology that we don't have that. We can say who's behind the computer.
Yeah.
The money is gone. Usually the bank is pretty good to stop the transfer or something like that, but sometimes it's too late. And, yeah, so we see a lot of those.
Okay.
Joe has a question. Joe has a question.
Thank you for that.
So, we're hearing, I guess one of the other things too, outside of theft, which is, maybe an issue, everywhere, as you said, we have a lot more, drug issues that people are trying to, make sure that they have money for their habit, but, we're looking into a totally different subject. I think one of the major concerns that I have is, speeding, especially up and down Riverdale Road. I think it's probably the same on the other roads as well. And when it's speeding, and even not interested in the speeding, this thing, people are on pass on solid lines. All the time. And I can't tell you how many times I've seen personally witnesses as a result of that. And unfortunately, a fatal accident, literally just a few kilometers from where I live, on Coverdale Road, which are now, that was so a cause of difficult crimes and violence on solid lines. Is there, instead of having somebody all the time, which I know it's not possible, are there any other suggestions that you might have that we could use or we could consider to, try to mitigate dangers that are associated with that?
I think Councilor Toy, your internet connection or something, I think it's hard to hear you, but I think it was around passing solid
Yes,
lines,
yes.
like traffic violations, those sorts of things, without the expectation of having someone there all the time. Is that right, Joe?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Years.
I tried to piece that.
I'm trying to put my microphone closer to you. Is this better?
What's that, sorry?
I'm having my microphone closer to me. Is that better?
It's your connection. You're kind of it's kind of going in and out, so you become robotic for a few seconds at a time.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
All right. I'll bear that in mind. Thank you.
Can hear that too. Okay, so wherever you are now, that might work.
That's better.
Well, and maybe even just slowing down.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Slowing down the talk.
I'm not sure which accident he's referring to.
There's one by the bridge for the,
By the graveyard
by the
on
graveyard.
Coverdale Road.
When was that?
Grade one was on Coverdale Road.
When was it, Joe?
It was one of the playoff games for the Wildcats. That's how long ago it was.
Yes,
Okay.
that was Riverview
Yes.
Kodiak jurisdiction.
Yeah.
Okay,
I remember
Yeah.
almost ours, but it was
Yeah.
Kodiak.
okay.
And the question is, what can we do?
Yeah, I think around things like that. So I think the question was more around that was like someone passing on a solid line. So those types of things without expecting that you guys have patrol cars looking at every instance of
Yeah.
something like that.
One thing that can be done, and I suggested, is buying a camera for your vehicle inside the car. Those are a few $100, can save you, can record lots of stuff. Obviously, if you're a victim of any driving offense, you can share us the video. That's really great. We saw on video people getting out of their vehicle and being aggressive, and after that,
Like road rage.
road rage incidents caught on video. We see this often. Those cameras are just usually on the mirror. You can buy those. Again, it depends. Everybody's to have different budget. But also on the civil side of it, if you're not responsible for an accident, maybe you can prove otherwise to the lawyer, right? So yeah, there should be something done, of course. Because every time we have a driving complaint, we'll call the complainant. Obviously, we'll get a statement from you. If you're able to provide video, it just speaks volume, right? As evidence. Then after, we can go see the other guy and say, listen, this is your plate. And the driver have a responsibility to tell us who's the driver, or can have a fine for that if they don't cooperate. So usually, that's the best way. I mean, video, sometimes we do have files with video, and they're like, okay, like, they can't argue this. It's better than a 3-page statement. So it could be a suggestion, to have for your own protection. for your own safety. You never know when you're gonna need it. I know I
Yeah, I
have
guess-
one.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking, I'll try to go slow if this helps. I guess I was thinking more from a prevention perspective. And I'm not sure these are the right solutions, but I'll just give you an example. What we need to have, those speed locators, where when you're driving, it tells you how fast you're going. We need some kind of signage or something, that, again, just reminds drivers, that, watch their speed, and especially for, focusing on, or solid lines. Do we need, is there anything else that we can do, to try to prevent this? Because it's good, yeah, I understand it's good to have a camera. It's after the fact. And, the thing is, we're trying to find a way to slow people down on that road, because somebody drives that road thinks that they can go as fast as they can, and wherever they can, because chances are, 99% of the time, I feel like remember us, as we all understand that, they're not going to be police officer there.
Yeah, I'm having a hard time piecing
Yeah.
that one together. I'm sorry. Joe, it's really hard to hear you. It was fine at the start, but then so I think the question is more of some things that we can do on a more proactive basis. So like the speed radar signs.
Yeah.
Okay. But that's as far as I got. Sorry.
Do you find those speed radar signs actually work?
Good question.
Okay.
I think they have an impact mentally, people.
I mean, I always slow down.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I try to get it right at the right number.
I slow down as well. I slow down the one that like changed.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Cause we put two of them on Main
Yeah,
Street
they're
here and I find like
They're
I
great.
slow down.
they're
Okay.
great. I love that. Yeah, and I don't know the cost of it. That comes
Yeah.
from your budget, and
But maybe we should put some along Coverdale.
they are nice. They are nice.
Okay.
And obviously, if there's issue regarding lines or speed limits, that's stuff that needs to be brought up to DOT, right, Department of Transport, and sometimes they do studies. I don't know their protocol or how they do things, but especially when there's a fatal accident or there's stuff happening all the time. I know we have reports of all the fatalities in the province and stuff like that, and they must be looking at it. But in general, any place that you can think there's driving problems or speed problem, give us a call. We have also a traffic unit section that can usually, we forward a lot of emails to them saying, FYI, 12 Main Street, we have lots of reports, speeders, and they're gonna come, like, DCH, same thing, right? Those guys are provincial unit, they move. But you're right, we can't be everywhere, but at the same time, there's stuff like that, like speed bumps in the school zone, 50 signs, like, signs are great, I love those, to be honest with you, I don't have the answer, but I
That's okay.
think it changed. Yeah,
I think that's a good one. Maybe
and the
that's
cost of it, I don't know, you guys know, it's great investment in my opinion, especially where those 50, like Main Street, where a lot of
Mm.
vehicle goes. I mean, if you wanna put it on a street where there's 10 car per day, it's different thinking, right? But it makes a lot of sense to me, yeah, of course.
May I ask a question? I like to use this time as a training, session for me of what we should have done. So I have a friend who was following up Fredericton Road. She was following what she suspected to be a driver under the influence. It was early morning, so she was really nervous about kids or whatever. So she followed, and she followed like into a drive-through that won't be named, but anyway, and saw him passed out in this driver's seat while he was waiting in the drive-through. So whatever. So she calls in.
Yeah.
And the dispatcher was like, "That's great. I've let somebody know. You're fine." But she continued to follow because when you leave that area,
Yeah.
you could go in many different directions.
Mhm.
She continued to follow, and the police officer was like, the RCMP officer was calling her, and like she was like telling him the mile markers or whatever. This continued until they finally caught up in Shediac. Is that a normal response for a person to follow? Like, I think it was
wasn't-
good.
It wasn't shitty, yeah, it was by Highway 2 and Highway 50.
It was you?
No, I know exactly what
Yeah,
What are you talking
it was
about?
like last week.
Yeah.
I told her she was a nuts for
Yeah.
following because she could have
I
been
mean,
but was it a good thing?
if you're following speed limits,
She was not, but she also let the officer know that she was not.
yeah, I mean, I can't tell you to break the law,
Yeah.
one thing, right? But if
This
you
is
believe,
off the record. But this is for my own personal.
well, no, she did
This
right.
is being
Yeah.
recorded. It's not off, it's not off the record.
She did right because she called it in.
Yeah.
right? She followed, so it helped us out.
It did help, I think. Yeah.
At the end of the day, he wasn't,
Right.
right? But she did nothing against
Yeah.
what she did.
Okay.
No, not at all.
Okay.
We love that.
So I think that's good then.
At the
for
end of the day, he was
citizens.
not, is that what you just said?
There's a lot more surrounding this story.
But,
When you said about him going to sleep in the drive-through,
Yeah.
literally, my husband can take like a 3-minute nap at a stop sign.
Yeah.
Like, that's just trained to like do this recovery thing,
Yeah.
and it is like.
Again,
what
you
is
gotta be
that?
no, but to answer your question, honestly, no.
Thing to do.
Yeah,
Okay. 'Cause-
without breaking the law.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, I was really proud of her
if
for
the
doing.
vehicle is going to 100 and you're saying, oh, like there's a different and common sense apply as well.
Yeah.
If he's going 125 and I mean,
Yeah.
the speed limit is 110, are we all going 110? Sometimes we go over 110 and we go
Yeah.
112, right? So common sense applies as long as she doesn't put anybody in danger.
Yeah.
What she did was awesome. Dispatch, stay on the line.
Yeah.
The officer called her back.
I mean, she was really like, the officers were great
Yeah,
with her
so-
too, like the surrounding.
They
after
intercept,
that.
right? At
Yeah.
the end of the day, they intercept no matter where it is.
Yeah.
And,
Okay, I'm gonna tell her to go watch this video so that you
sounds good.
you say that she did it.
Called in saying somebody was following him.
I have a crazy lady behind me.
But I'm sure she kept her distance and stuff like that.
She did, cause she's like undercover,
There
yeah.
we go.
yeah,
So no,
she's
she did
awesome.
great. Good.
Okay,
That's all.
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, she'll be
Well,
so proud,
I
so
have-
proud.
Comment kind of to Joe's question. I think it was in Nova Scotia. I'm trying to remember exactly what community I was in, but they had the perforated lines on the side of the highway. They had those on the yellow line where there's solid lines. Not
Oh, that's a fun idea.
just in areas, it wasn't everywhere, but I feel like where it was within areas
Yeah.
that were like high
Danger.
risk.
They used to have those on the 11, didn't they?
Yeah,
Or Smirmishy?
it was.
I think so.
They have them in Nova Scotia too.
Yeah, I think maybe that's where it was, but. I thought
That's great too for people falling asleep or
Mhm.
all that.
Right. 'cause it can do that. I mean, yeah.
This has been fun.
Any additional questions for the Obviously, thank you for all that you guys do.
Yes.
Mhm.
We know that our
Yes.
area is a
Thank
very
you for your
high volume
service.
area, and we do really appreciate your presence, and it does make a difference.
Thank you. Like I said to Austin, I'm there, text, call, anything, any question, anybody. We'll do our best. That's all we're trying to do.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Make sure you grab one of those things on the way out,
I will.
And they are barbecuing.
and they are
Oh,
barbecue
yeah,
next
no,
door.
we're saying.
Yeah, you gotta say hi to you guys.
Thank
very
you.
much, sir.
Thank you.
Let's go change it back.
It's Cassia first food cycle or do one? Yeah. Do,
She's online.
Okay.
Yeah.
okay, okay. So we'll do Cassia next.
Okay.
Except, I think, hi Cassia, virtually. I think, do you want to share your presentation or do you want us to pull it up? And I don't think we can hear you, sorry. Do you want to test it again just to make sure?
Can you hear me now?
We're good. There we go.
Perfect.
Do
I-
you want to bring your presentation up or do you want us to on our end?
I can absolutely share it if that's okay. Should I share it right now?
I think we're all set.
Okay, wonderful. So I will share my screen.
And Joe and Nathan, just while she's setting that up, can you hear her as well, just to make sure in cyberspace that it's also working?
I can. Yes.
Perfect.
Can you see the first slide? No
Yeah.
notes or anything?
We can see the notes.
Oh, you can see the notes. Okay. I will try again. Share. Okay, that's okay. I'm gonna just hide the notes and just do it.
Go to full screen mode until it goes away.
It's different with every.
I apologize. I am not very used to WebEx.
I'm say it's different with every,
Platform tool.
I will just, here we go. I will hide the notes. My apologies. Okay. Full screen.
Hey, John.
Right.
Okay.
It's good to
Is
see us
that
both coming in
a little
each
bit
evening.
better? Is this better? Can you see the first
Yeah,
the first
we can
slide?
see that.
Okay, yeah, it's in like, yeah, there we go, perfect.
Okay, perfect. I apologize that it's not full screen, but I will do my best. So, good evening, Mayor, Council, and staff. Thank you very much for welcoming me this evening. My name is Cassia Régnier, and I'm a Municipal Program Coordinator at Food Cycle Science. So, Food Cycle Science is an organization based in Ottawa, and we're 100% focused on finding food waste diversion solutions. And we do this using our innovative technology called the Food Cycler. So, we offer our solutions directly to consumers through partners like Vitamix and Breville, to classrooms, and to municipalities through our municipal programs. And that's what I'm here to discuss this evening. So we are currently partnered with 92 Canadian municipalities. And as you can see on the map on my screen here, we have partners in New Brunswick as well, which we are very excited about. But our partners are very diverse. Some are small, some are big, some are rural. But what we do is we help our municipal partners keep food waste out of the landfills. And so the problem with food waste is that it's avoidable, it accounts for a large portion of our household waste, and it's really heavy. So freezes in the winter for both you and I, and it's really, really expensive. And once food waste ends up in the landfill, it produces methane, which is a really potent greenhouse gas. And we see that food waste has a really big impact on our municipalities. So whether that is financial or environmental or even social, putting food waste in the garbage creates odors, which is really unpleasant for us, but really, really attractive for certain animals that like to rummage through the trash. So there's a lot of benefit to keeping food waste out of the landfill. And we see that on all of these fronts. And so when we present our solutions, we often get asked, haven't we solved this already? And there are solutions like green bins, which are more popular in large cities. So here in Ottawa, we've had green bins for about a decade, but the participation rate is really, really low. It's about 20 to 30%. And there's still safety concerns, environmental concerns with adding more trucks on the road. Many people in your community might backyard compost, which we think is a good idea, but there's still that concern with animals, and it's not feasible for everyone. And if it's done incorrectly, it can produce methane as well. And for reasons that I just mentioned, it's not sustainable, nor is it affordable to keep landfilling our organics. And so this evening, I am really happy to introduce the Food Cycler. So I will just play this here. Can everybody see the video? Should be playing. Wonderful. So this is the Food Cycler. It's an indoor composting alternative. And what the Food Cycler does is it processes your food waste in about 4 to 8 hours. So it has a removable bucket. You load all of your food waste into the bucket. You put the bucket into the Food Cycler, and then you close the lid like she will do in a few moments, and you press start. And then in about 4 to 8 hours, as I mentioned, it will process your food waste. So it grinds it right up, dehydrates it, heats it up, so it kills all the pathogens, and it produces this dry, sterile soil amendment type product that you can add to your garden, you can add to a compost pile. There's a lot of uses, but what we're seeing essentially is a 90% reduction in the volume of food waste. And so it does this using little energy. So it's about a kilowatt hour for the entire cycle. And the machine can be used anywhere where there's a plug. So most people will store it in their kitchen or perhaps a heated garage. And there are many things that you can do with your food cycler byproduct. So as I mentioned, most people will use it in their garden soil, but it's great for compost piles. Local farms often accept it, or great for community gardens as well. And so the economic impact of food waste, we see that in the traditional method of managing food waste. So there's unrelenting costs. It's really, really expensive. There's labor, maintenance, but the Food Cycler offers a really decentralized approach to dealing with food waste. And so I mentioned that we're working with 92 Canadian municipalities right now. So we've completed many of these pilots and the rest are all ongoing. And the results have been really positive. So we have a really high participation rate. We're able to divert a lot of net new food waste. And there's a really great awareness and prevention component to our programs that we see as well. And so a few months ago, we were awarded with some funding from the federal government, and we are distributing this funding at the moment to Canadian municipalities who wish to launch new pilot programs to help offset the cost of the pilot program. And so here is the typical structure of a pilot program. So it's 12 weeks from start to finish. Residents start by purchasing a subsidized food cycler. They use the unit for 12 weeks. They track how much food waste they divert. At the end, it's theirs to keep. And we ask them to fill out a brief exit survey. So we get a lot of really good data for the municipality. And then the data can be used for program expansions or to apply for further grants. And here is the investment model of the food cycler pilot program. So we offer a municipal investment, and then we add in the federal government funding. And then we suggest that the municipality subsidizes $100 per household, and the resident is responsible for the remaining amount. So everyone has some skin in the game this way, and it's worked really well with our partners thus far. And so here we have our pilot size recommendations. So for a town of your size, we'd recommend starting with a pilot program of 50 households. And this is based on our experience the last few years. And so that's all I have this evening. So I'd ask that you receive our presentation as information, and should you be interested in partnering, to please refer it to staff for a recommendation to council. So thank you so much for welcoming me this evening.
Thanks, Cassia.
Thank you.
If there's any
Is
questions.
there any questions? I have a question. Are there any I saw that you're in 8 provinces, Nova Scotia being the one that you're not on this end. But, are there municipalities in New Brunswick that you're going through this pilot with?
Yes, thank you for your question. Absolutely. So we have just recently partnered with Rothsay and the village of Grand Manan.
So just recently, so they're just starting the process now?
So those are partners that have signed on, so they will officially be launching pilot programs this summer. We're speaking to several, but those are the official ones. And we've just started the outreach in the Eastern communities in the last few months. So still early, but we're really excited about it.
One question I think, Cassia, that I'll ask from the staff perspective is this probably differs, actually it probably differs from region to region, but definitely from province to province, is that in a lot of provinces and territories, I suspect as well, residents are paying, or municipalities are paying per tonnage when it goes to the landfill. And so in our case, we pay a tipping fee, I think it's called, where it's a fixed amount per house. So hypothetically, if we were to have every resident sign on to food cycler, or if we were to have every resident compost nothing, it will be the same price because we pay a fixed amount. Have you seen, so I guess in a case like that, it would be more of the fact that there's an environmental benefit as opposed to a cost saving for the municipality. Have you seen that in other either New Brunswick municipalities or other areas that have a similar model? I suspect it's different everywhere, but that's one of the things that I think we would ask from our end here before making a recommendation to them.
Of course, thank you for your question. I have seen that before, not in New Brunswick actually, but in Newfoundland. And I'd have to ask my colleagues if they've seen it in the West as well. But a fixed cost, I would have to know more of the details to kind of work out how that investment would work. But yes, I could certainly reach out to some of those partners and open those conversations, or perhaps connect you with one of my colleagues who's seen the background of it a little bit more. Does that answer your question?
It does, yeah, thank you. We can give you some more
thank
details
you.
after the fact too. I should have probably done this before. That's my fault, my apologies.
No, I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Some specific numbers, you can follow up with that for sure.
Oh, the
Sure.
economic impact would be worthwhile noting as well,
Yeah.
not just the environmental.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't have a food cycler, but I do have an indoor composter at home and they're fantastic.
Mhm.
I'm glad to
You
hear.
get no smelly garbage in your house.
It just seems like over time, this would pay for itself, even just in the municipal garbage saving, let alone the environmental.
Is this something that the Regional Service Commission has been presented?
No.
I think that was one of my, I can't remember if I said that to you, Cassie, or to Scott, I can't remember. But that was one of my questions initially when we had done, like when we had gotten the question or the ask to present. But I think the model from Food Cycler is around municipalities kind of partnering in. So the Service Commission, if you haven't heard of it yet, is the like regional body that in our case also does, like it's our landfill, amongst other things. So that's who we pay the tipping fee to, for example, if I go back to my last question. So that was one of my questions, is this something that goes to the Service Commission to do on a regional basis, or is this something that you're looking for specific individual partners on? That's something that I would also probably dive into more before coming back with an actual.
I think from a social responsibility perspective, this is a really great thing to look at. I do think that we should be bringing it forward to the Service Commission to look at for our partners across the region, if it is truly viable.
Sure, like,
This is where you guys are.
I think from the Service Commission perspective is that the food and organic waste isn't going into the landfill, it's being composted in our region, so it's being composted on a larger scale. And sold to bring revenues in to help subsidize other projects. So I think it's just a little, but I know that every solid waste disposal facility does it differently. Like some don't compost and also all the methane that's coming from the landfill, we're using it and selling it for power. So it's a bit different in our region, but I can see how it would be great in regions that don't have that power generator and don't have the composting. But also, Cassie, I don't have a question. I just wanted to say that I think you're a really good presenter. Like, I thought you were like to the point and knew your stuff, and I just think that's really nice. So congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Councilor Vittori, you have a question?
Thank you.
I'm going to try, listening to that, I tried to make an adjustment to, my audio.
So far, yeah.
No?
Yeah.
Go for it.
Okay, so, actually, I was gonna bring up some of the points, that Stephanie brought up, recalling the current we have, that there wouldn't necessarily be, let's say there's a revenue issue as, from the perspective of how the Regional Service Commission, deals with garbage. But I'm gonna ask the question more from a practical perspective, because I'm my wife in my ear right now. And she's wondering, a few things. First of all, does that mean I have to find space on the counter for yet another appliance? Would be one. The other question that I'm sure she would have is, probably send at least a couple of bags a day to that little green bin. You know, like, does that mean I'm gonna have to have it and possibly, well, put, you know, garbage into some other bin, so to eventually, so almost sort of rotating things. And so the question I ask is, have you ever heard any of those types of things, and had any, let's say, how we would deal with any objections related to that?
I think, Cassie, did you get that, or?
I got a few parts of it. I heard the first part about the Service Commission, so I can answer that. But the second question, I'm not sure I caught the whole thing.
Okay.
But just a quick note on the Service Commission. So I have been in contact with a few across the province. I believe yours is the Southeast Service Commission. So I haven't spoken to them yet. But the feedback I've gotten from them right now is to contact municipalities directly. But I will absolutely try again to connect with your Service Commission. And I apologize. I didn't quite catch your second question.
I think, Joe, was it about having an extra appliance and extra bins and stuff like that?
Right, I mean, it's more of a practical thing. So, you know, perhaps I'll send you a note, Nat, to ask the question. I don't want to burden people with issues that apparently I'm having technically here.
Yeah, I know, Joe, what we do for ours is our appliance is actually in the basement in a storage room, like in our utility room. And we just take the bin out, and that's what goes underneath the kitchen sink and gets our scrap food. And then when it's full, we put it in the composter, run it, dump it in our outdoor compost. and then refill it again. It's not an extra garbage can or extra bags or anything like that.
I would think the trucking alone would be worthwhile, the cost of all of this.
Like, would we have any measurements from Southeast Regional on how much tonnage we are tipping for green waste?
Tonnage, but I don't think by green waste, I don't think.
I don't know, what?
It has a lot more
We'll
weight
take
than
it.
everything else.
Yeah,
So we actually asked,
because if we could use that to measure like what we would expect to reduce it by.
they're giving us tonnage for waste collection contracts anyway, so we'll see if they come back with separated by colors. I actually
Yeah,
don't know.
We should know, cause it's,
Yes.
they have to weigh in and out every
Diverted
time they
each.
go to the
Okay,
different.
so then we may be able to get that separately.
That'd be an interesting number to have.
Can I,
And this wouldn't get rid of any, commercial waste or then going to the.
No.
Yeah.
So it's not diverting all of it. This is just household.
can I suggest just before we continue that we call Joe on a phone and he can just mute the TV and he'd be able to communicate through a cell phone?
Yeah, I think we can do that.
Joe, do you want me to call your cell phone or
As long as he
you?
mutes his mic, we can just have a phone in the middle of the table and it.
Well, if I like that, that'd be great, thanks.
Wait, hold on.
As long as it's close enough to the owl.
He can also dial in.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah, we could do
where
the
where
dial-in
mic
as
is, he can change his audio to go to, he can call in instead.
Do you wanna try that, Joe, to see if where you hit, where you hit the mute button, you can hit the arrow and then hit call you? And it should be able to, or I think it'll give you a number too. You can try that and then it'll sync. It'll dial in right to the owl, yeah.
Yeah, he'll show up as another call-in user.
Yeah. And then if not, we can call you. I think while we're trying to figure that out, are there any other questions for Cassia? I think we'll make some connections with the Service Commission, do some digging as well, and then get some of the tipping fee clarification numbers to you too, to see if we can explore it any further.
That sounds
Just
wonderful.
curiosity.
Thank you again so much.
What organization do you represent?
I'm with Food Cycle Science. So we're a Canadian, Ottawa-based company.
So are you guys providing some of the science or some of the technology for these companies making these products, or what exactly is your guys' goal?
So we make the technology. So it's our patented technology that we provide. We have some science as well. We have some third parties that do our life cycle analyses and all of those things. But we partner with Vitamix, and Vitamix sells directly to consumers. They put their logo on our technology.
So you guys would be getting a royalty from every unit, or?
Not a royalty, but I can provide information about the investments, but it's our company, so it would be an investment towards our company.
It is
yeah.
your product. It's like you selling your milk, same thing.
Lovely, thank you.
Thank you
I
so
have
much.
one
Have a
quick
great.
question.
Oh yes.
Oh, Nathan.
Yes.
Nathan's got a question.
It's like
The
you
communities
sell
that
your
have signed on to this program, how difficult is it to find participants that are willing to take the machines?
Thank you for your question. So far, knock on wood, it's not been difficult. What communities usually do is they'll put out a survey to the community even before they place the order, and they'll ask people to register. We'll usually cap it at either 50 or 200 households, and then we usually have waiting lists for people to join. But it goes pretty smoothly.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Cassia. Our clerk's office will get back to you with additional information. Really appreciate
Wonderful.
it.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And now I'd like to invite Miss Kathy McDonald, and welcome back, Kathy. I would like to come forward. It's been so long. I am so thrilled to see you back in the.
Do you want to take yours? Join us.
Yay. This is the first time coming before the new council, isn't
I
it?
think, yeah, I recognize a few people, but there's definitely
You have been sadly missed.
Been
I'm
gone for so
very
long.
happy to have you back.
longer than I thought, yeah.
Well, I can understand why they probably didn't want to give you up.
Yeah, I
So
don't
maybe
know.
you can maybe we'll do some introductions.
Yeah.
I'm Rob Campbell, I'm the mayor for the town of Salisbury.
Okay.
I'm Austin, I'm the CIO, so nice to put a face to the name finally for some of the emails.
You from something
What,
else.
Maybe, it could have
the
been,
library
it
when
could
it
have
was-
been, yeah, it could have been, I was with, yes, I think, yes,
Yeah.
probably, yeah, yes, from a past life, probably, yes.
Jason Glant.
John Weaver Dykstra.
Phyllis Bannister.
Stephanie Thorne.
Then we have some.
And we have a couple folks on the phone.
Nobody's gonna.
I'm Nathan Omelinas.
Sorry.
Hello, hey, nice to meet everybody. Yeah, no one, Diane didn't really say what I was supposed to be presenting. I don't.
Just maybe tell us what's happening, what's happening at the library. So you're doing some great events. I see that you have like a teddy bear sleepover that's coming up. Or was
Yes,
that
that's this
tonight?
week, yes.
Teddy bear sleepover. And I see you've got all kinds of other initiatives that are going on that looks really fun for our community. And
Yeah, I've got 2 summer students and they're very enthusiastic. So they
yeah, I
have
mean,
lots of
that's
things
really good to have
planned.
back. Last year we were really lacking a little bit, and
Yeah.
just seeing all kinds of announcements for fun things going on. I'm hearing from all over the community that what's happening. They're really excited by it.
Good. Let's see, our other big news, I don't know if anyone saw, we're getting a second permanent employee.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure when it's gonna happen, but they've been trying to do that for like 20 years. The library board's been writing letters to the government asking for extra employees.
But our numbers substantiated because our library is one of the busiest libraries in the southeast region.
Yeah, I think it's for like a 1-person employee and the size of the library, yes, it's been considered quite busy. Yeah. I don't know where I'm gonna.
Maybe for the newer counselors, you could maybe just give a rundown on your hours of operation and the services you provide, because you provide a lot of great services, whether it's the seed catalog, with the little things that you provide that people don't know about.
Yeah, there's probably little things like that I won't even think to remember. Yes, we're open 30 hours a week and our hours are a little strange because we close for lunch hours sometime. That always throws people off, but we're open Tuesday to Saturday. Wednesdays we're open in the afternoon and evening, so we're closed in the morning that day. But yes, we share our books and movies and things with the other 63 public libraries in New Brunswick, so you can have things sent in for free if we don't have it and they have it at another library. And we can usually even get things from other provinces sent as well. We have an online catalog and you can just go search and send where you want it to go for pickup. And a rare thing people don't even often know about is we have a books by mail service. You can have the book sent right to your house by mail with the return. That one, it's.
Wow.
You can get online Audible books, you can get everything online.
Well, I've been using the go online and search and get the book sent here, but I didn't know that.
Yeah, you can get them into your house with the return label, just you have to take them to the post office to return them, so sometimes it's easier for
I
people
guess
just to bring them to the library if you're close. But,
Okay.
yeah, we have the online ebooks and audiobooks that you can download from home. And then, yeah, just little local things like the seed library.
Yeah, like the seed library is like, there's a little thing with drawers and literally you can go in and get seeds to plant in your garden or flowers or vegetables and it's kind of a lending library. You can bring back seeds if you have them. It's not always necessary.
Yeah, we're always taking donations of new ones. If you have some you didn't use the whole package or something, we could.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
My wife will be there more often.
Well, it's just, they have just so many services. You've got a reading program or launch party that's starting tomorrow too, I think.
Yes, our summer reading club launch party is
From the
tomorrow.
library week, sorry.
Yeah. What else? They're starting to get more into this object lending thing. We don't have a lot yet because we don't really have the space that some other libraries do, but we did just get 2 guitars and 2 ukuleles that you can borrow. And then we've got a few new board games too that can be borrowed, and those are surprisingly popular. They're hardly ever on the shelf.
Wow.
We have Clue at home right now.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Clue is one of the ones we got. I'm sure there's all kinds of things I'm forgetting.
How did the adult book club go?
It's just kind of rebooted.
Yeah.
And got 4 or 5 people. It's a fun little group. And there seems to be more demand, especially for adult programs. I find people want to get out of the house and they're looking for free things. So I'm hoping in the fall to do a lot more of that. Hopefully things for adults.
And your space is sometimes used, I know the CBDCs use your space to do some training programs with businesses.
Yep, start your own business seminars, they come and do. There's actually something from the first presentation earlier that made me think, we were asking with the training for the scams.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do get emails from groups like wanting to do presentations on those sorts of things for free, but I'm when I've tried things like that before, like often no one will come, so I never know. But if you knew of people that would come to that sort of thing, I could look into that a little more when they.
Well, I think I'd like to organize it, I think, already up to the senior homes to do it right
That
there.
would be really good.
Yeah, if I get, I don't know if I've received any lately, but if I see something like that again, maybe I'll forward it along, cause.
Yeah. I know you, I mean, you run wonderful kids programs and definitely there. And, the other thing, and it changes each month, but the library, just for people that know, for families, you guys give away free passes to all kinds of different tourist attractions in the province. So with a library card, if you go in, you get a free pass, and I'm not sure what this month is, but each month is different. And,
Yeah, we just finished, we've done, over the last month or two, we've done the Fundy Trail Parkway passes, King's Landing, but it rained the whole week, I don't think anyone took that one.
You've done Pay Us Again, you've done.
Yeah, we just finished 2 weeks of passes for Pay Us Glen, and there was something else recently too, yeah. And there'll be more, I don't think there's many for July, but in, I think August, September, there's a bunch more coming up, so. We just need a library card, so it's a bit of a scam to make you get library cards for all the members of your family, because everyone needs their own card to get a free pass, so. It's amazing how many people actually do come back and borrow a book again afterwards, so even if they made their card just for that, so.
So how are you doing on your space in there?
It's always crowded.
So I'm bringing that up with council, just because we have a lot of new councilors, and obviously I've known Kathy for many years, and, you know, the library is a very valuable resource in our community. You know, reading, obviously so important for our youth and adults, whether it's even the Dolly Parton Learning, or Imagine Library that takes place, that, you know, so many kids up to, I think it's, up to 5 years old, that they get books.
We were involved with that, but.
Yeah, no,
sometimes
I'm
people
saying, like,
looking
it gets,
for
it gets the
forms
reading, gets them engaged, but then it
Yes,
gets them to the
exactly.
library, right? So it's just so important in our community that we get as many people out to know about the valuable services that are available, because obviously educated youth is just so important, and, we have a really valuable service over there, and they are lacking in space. So as we look at needs, and as we look at, I know Kathy, I've had talks about dreams and some, you know, drawings on new buildings and everything else. Obviously, from a needs assessment perspective, over time, she mentioned about the guitars and the ukuleles and those type of things. Other communities have their snowshoes and cross-country skis that are actually rented or given out as we rent them out for free, but they're actually done right from the library type of perspective, but there's just no room over there to provide those type of facilities. So I'm just talking about long-term needs, and I always like to do the sales pitch because it is such a valuable service in our community to let you guys know about it. And I encourage you to get in and visit the team there, because they do a really valuable job for everyone in their community.
Just like, oh, go ahead, Sarah.
I always see online people looking for like computers and scanning and printing and faxing, like is that stuff that's available at the library?
Yeah, so we have public access computers that anyone can come use, and we do a lot of printing. I print probably 3 Amazon return labels a day for people. And no one ever knows their email password, so sometimes that one's a struggle. Yeah, the printing, we do charge a small fee for the printing. We haven't been doing faxing, I don't know. I don't know if that, maybe that'll be something to look into once I got a second employee, maybe it'd be more feasible, but.
Older, yeah.
But no, it's amazing how people still are looking to send faxes, so it could be, but yeah, the computers and the printing, we definitely offer, and yeah.
Thank you.
Is there a big uptake now after COVID with the computers being used again?
Not, still, the printing is still in high demand, but I don't find the computer use is nearly as high.
Yeah.
I think everyone kind of bought a laptop during lockdown.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is picking up a little bit again, but.
Okay.
So I'm curious, space being an issue, do you have maybe a objective, a goal of how much bigger you'd like to be?
So I've got a draft that they were working on of our needs assessment, but it's based on population, and they haven't, I don't know, it might change. I was asking Austin what the new amalgamated population.
7,700.
Yeah, so I don't know. So this is for a couple years old. So the current library is around 1,800 square feet, I believe.
Yeah.
And based on the old population of just the village, they were recommending 6,100 square feet for buildings. So it might be more for the amalgamated population. I don't know.
Yeah, keep in mind that, you know, when you look at it, it's not just folks, it's obviously a community that provides the service on the different groups that go in and use meetings and different things as well. So it provides valuable service where we're lacking in other areas regardless.
60 by 100.
Yeah, a good example, I think with a similar population was Capillet, they have a really nice building and that's, I think, about the same amount of a size building.
Now, just out of curiosity, with some of the accessibility needs, is single level the only option, or would multi-level be reasonable? Or do you need an elevator?
Usually single level is highly recommended, especially just for staffing, like where there's only,
Yeah.
it might only be me there, even when we have a second person, like ideally what someone can go out and, go do outreach in the community, so it might, there's not gonna be someone that can always be there on that second floor to help people, so.
Cause even a storage for some of those musical instruments and some of the stuff. that you-
Yeah, we really need storage space, so if it was just storage, that.
Cause I think your neighborhood, your neighbor directly beside you that's for sale right now would be a lovely spot for that.
I'd have to see more about that building, but I wish it was one level, but, there might be ways around it.
Any additional questions? How about anyone online? Any questions, Joe, Ethan?
I don't have anything right now.
Thank you.
I don't have anything right now.
Well, thank you very much, Kathy. It's so great to have you back.
Yes, thanks, it's nice to see you.
And just for the people to know, she wouldn't help with Sussex for a little bit and,
For a little
I
bit.
know, I'm trying to be kind. I kept sending emails saying, where are you? Where are you coming back? Thank you very much.
All right.
Thanks for
Thank
coming.
you.
Thank you, guys.
Oh, yeah, I will see you Thursday.
Austin, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Is it any better?
That was okay.
That was okay.
We're having technical
String a
difficulties.
sentence,
She was making sure she doesn't have a question.
string a sentence.
Do you have any questions for Kathy, Joe?
No, I didn't have any questions. Was learn here and get a little bit of information about the library. Did you hear any of that?
Thank you.
Yeah, we heard.
But you did go a little.
Thank
bit
you, Kathy.
dramatic Again.
Thank you.
Well, I'll keep trying.
Do you have your video on, Joe?
That's odd.
I can put my video on, but you'll just see a frustrated Italian if you want to see me.
Do we want, I think, come
There he
after
is.
recess too, so we can try and
Can
figure
we have a
out.
motion, can we have a motion for a recess?
So move.
So moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Councillor Glant, all in favor?
Aye.
On the line, you guys in favor?
Right.
Aye, motion carried. Okay, can I have a motion to return back into the council session? So moved by Councillor Glant, seconded by Councillor Deputy Mayor Bannister, all in favor?
Aye.
I,
Motion carried. Now, we'll now move on to item 4, May 2023 financial statements.
Sorry. So everybody got a copy of the profit and loss budget versus actual. So if you look down just very highly, just general government is at about 35%. Protective services is at about 29.3. Transportation is 24.7. Environmental health services is at 32.7%. Public health at 30%. Development, planning and development services is at 33.8%. Recreation culture is at 29.6%. And then fiscal services at 50.5%. So overall, we're at 31.2% for the total expenses to date. Don't know if anybody has any questions on that. You can always come see me as well and go more in depth.
Councillor Thorne?
I can just come see you after. It's just your budget line that's imbalanced, so I have to figure out what's going on in the budget column. You know what I mean? Yep. That's all. I can come see you after.
That's encouraging, no?
Yeah, it is good.
Any additional questions by council? No additional questions. We'll move on to item number 5, tax rate differential and municipal commission.
So this really is just a chance for council to have a discussion if needed. I'll give a short, brief verbal update or summary. So I'll start with municipal commission because we've had the opportunity to discuss that briefly. So as council's aware, we sent a letter to the minister dated June 6th. It was adopted in the consent agenda during our June meeting. And this was to raise some concerns in partnership with municipal advocacy organizations related to some of the wording around mainly the unilateral authority to remove bylaws. The minister did respond to the letter via the mayor on June 21st, which is also included in the package. So there were some amendments as well as some clarification around changing a bylaw, which does include some clarification of the fact that it does have to go essentially to the commission, like there is a process for that. I think it's still up for debate as to whether or not that respects the independence of municipalities or not. So we can dive into that a little bit. We had planned on keeping it on an agenda or keeping it on the agenda, and then it became a little bit more rushed from an advocacy perspective because it was going through, it was amongst a number of different pieces of legislation at the legislature in Fredericton before they broke for the summer, before the fall sitting. So there was some pressure to try to get some of these things resolved or at least clarified, but is another item for discussion. And then the first one that's on this agenda item is around the tax rate differential. So the province provided notice actually since our last council meeting, and the deadline to submit comment has already passed. So I think we can argue that that is a bit challenging in and of itself. But we have included a memo, or not a memo, sorry, a letter that was signed again by the advocacy organization. So FMMB, which is the francophone equivalent of UMMB, as well as 8 cities, who co-signed another letter again expressing concerns around process or lack thereof. But in essence, what this means for us is the regulation that was proposed as part of Bill 45 limits the ability of councils to establish local government tax rates for former LSDs. So it does place a cap, but it places a cap for 10 years, which is quite a long period of time. So may or may not be an issue for us. However, it will be a challenge for some areas and entities, especially where they were provided reassurance in the budget, or at least we were in the budget period last year, that we would have back to normal autonomy over our respective budgets. So that's really the essence of it. It's an opportunity for council essentially to have any discussion or to determine if there are any next steps required. I suspect this will be on the agenda regularly for the next little bit from our municipal advocacy organizations, but we wanted to make sure that we provided at least somewhat of an update or recap. And related to the tax rate differential, it's quite literally the first time we bring it back to an agenda, and the deadline for feedback has passed. So
So I mean, I'll weigh in first and then the council. Obviously, I do think we have to table a response, particularly around the 5-cent cap over a 10-year period, given that the province themselves broke their own rules last year by exceeding that. That's the first point. Second point would be because it doesn't specifically clarify as well that we were sure that, for instance, the mandatory service fees or regional service commission fees would become separate from any caps. We need clarification on that as well. This is not articulated well in writing, unless I read it wrong. But that should be clarified as well, because at a 5-cent cap, we could essentially have the former village have to augment and subsidize each year those rate increases if it exceeds the 5 cents. There's no protection on the former village in this regard.
It's also relative to how much you'd like to accomplish.
Right, exactly. So, giving the example of a fire station and then mandatory service fees come in at up to your particular area, one could exceed that limit. And it doesn't give us any, we'll have to cut services in an area. We just have to have clarification on what it really means, and it's not really articulated very well.
It's not necessarily that you have to cut services, it's more that you'd have to not grow too fast.
Or at all.
Or you may have to cut services. I mean, let's face it, if you're building a new fire station, for instance, or other services that are at X, yes, you're gonna have your natural growth, but then if there are services we already plan on adding with the Service Commission to create services, but they were already planned on, so they could actually be at the 5 cents right there. And if all we really, like, I want to just know that the stipulation is that those are separate.
But the point with the fire station and how to pay for the fire station, that's not necessarily all gonna be paid off in 1 year. That's gonna be paid off over a 20, 30 year, basically a mortgage.
But that's close to 5 cents, that's close to the 5 cent assessment in 1 year, right there for that one fire station, not even talking about any additional services or cost of living increases that are gonna occur.
Fair enough, but that 5 cents is only capped per year, is it not? So you could add another 5 cents the following year, even though the first 5 cents would still stay. Or the fire station. So it's just to slow down
Yeah, you're right.
how far you go.
That's true, yeah.
It's not that it's
Yeah, very valid.
a hard cap of 5 cents for 10 years. It's per
5
year.
cents each year, yeah.
It's to limit your scope.
Yeah. Good point.
I don't know if there's any other questions or comments, but, Joe, that's good.
I'm gonna give this another try. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, so Rob's point, I think that's probably that's the most important question that we have to ask is around whether contracts that come in from the Regional Service Commission are included in that 5 cent per year cap. Because if the answer is they are included, then at the end of the day, we're in a position where we really cannot increase money to spend. Like, because all of it's taken up with whatever services, mandated services that we're going to be required to provide from the Regional Service Commission. And that's going to have a dramatic impact on our ability to move forward with some of our strategies. And again, I guess to could argue that if that keeps happening year after year, then we're essentially handcuffed.
I wouldn't say handcuffed, but definitely limited. And that's the question as to what is all gonna be added to this in terms of if those roads are being added in the future.
And we just need
That's,
clarification.
the 5 cents is ridiculous.
Yeah, we just need clarification on additional information. You're right.
Right. So the other question I have, is around, we have a little flow chart with the, mutual around the local municipal commission. And I'm still reading it wrong, and also maybe you or the local correct here. But it kind of led me to believe that as it relates to, let's say, a mutual, resident has a request or a bylaw. Am I reading that right, that they have the opportunity to escalate that and have that go through the local commission? If they don't like what our bylaws are?
That's our understanding, yeah.
So just think about that we have, that we want to pass a bylaw on, that essentially we could have any one resident sort of delay something about bylaw because they don't like it.
I don't know, it's necessarily one resident that can do that, but definitely one group could.
And a resident can initiate the process. I think that's one of the concerns that were brought up regularly from the associations, from individual municipalities. We hinted at it in our letter, is that we have to, there's also a cost element. So we have to go through the process of issuing notices for some that have legislated public notification periods. We have to vet things by legal counsel. The reality is that municipalities are not just putting in bylaws for the sake of just willy-nilly putting something in place. And so one of the questions is if a resident, a group, whomever objects to the commission, not only does it potentially look at that process, or does it put into question the council's ability to put in place bylaws, it will also increase or make the municipality incur costs because they will be having to go through that process again or seek legal counsel, whatever that may look like. And I think that the rationale or what was given was that the province will only repeal something if it's in the greater good for the province beyond the municipal boundaries, which does that answer your question, provide any clarity. It did not to me, but it may to you. But that was the answer that we were given. But yeah, ultimately, someone does have, in my head, and this is oversimplifying the process, but it's very similar to the municipal ombuds that exists now for complaints, for our TIPA requests. There's an independent body that exists. However, the minister has powers within this process, whereas when it comes to the ombud, the minister does not have have power there.
But having said that, doesn't the legislature have the power to do a certain amount of stuff too, if they wanted something changed?
That's part of their other rationale, but they're saying that these exist elsewhere. They haven't specifically said it exists in this act, and this act, and this act, because those acts generally stipulate what steps we have to follow. So we still have to follow those steps, but now there's an additional layer where people can object to those.
My understanding is that this was built to me, part of this is, I don't know if it's necessarily agricultural and aside, or it's industry led, but that basically municipalities cannot just dictate how things are gonna happen in the countryside. Which is what some things are kind of built now, that council here can set things that make things untenable for other industries. And this is an avenue with which to try to adjust and amend things. I don't know if this is the best intent or use of why they're doing it, but that was what it was built to me, that you cannot just stipulate that you can no longer put farms or where farms have always been, or that, like, just, there's not.
It's for like radical intervention.
Yeah, it's not so much radical, but it's also votes. Farmers today, there's only about 2% of the population who are farmers. As an example, we don't have the votes, we don't have the ability to do politically anything anymore. It's not as easy as it used to be. And because of that, then our issues are not always addressed appropriately, and land policy is a prime reason for me to be sitting here for that very reason.
But I think you made an interesting point too, right? Like the spirit of the bill, I have no problem with.
Yeah.
I think we need a commission. I think it's important that there is one. For me, it's the ambiguity. There's so much ambiguity in the language of it.
Absolutely, and that's what I'm speaking to.
Yeah.
This is how we were sold part of this stuff. But does that not mean there's also other things that people are trying to utilize this for?
Yeah.
For whatever other avenues they want to curtail or go around. I don't know enough to say one way or the other, but.
As far as the Rights for Information Act, and know that well, there are good intentions as it relates to that as well, and it can be easily abused. And I'm totally on side, John, with what you're saying as it relates to farming. It's a great example of something that would be value. The thing is that this is now going to be highlighted as an option for you to decide that maybe not like a bylaw or something that's going on in the town. And well, until it happens, of course, but more information, not just like getting all kinds of complaints about one thing or another that we believe is the right thing to do for the town.
I think, I don't think anybody got that.
I did not get
So
that.
Joe, can I call your cell phone and just make sure we get that on record with what you had, just so that. Could I call your cell phone, Joe?
Yeah.
And just put your computer on mute, and then we'll do the audio through your phone.
Can you hear me? Yeah, I can hear you, Joe. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I'm kind of getting the double. You know what? I'm just gonna get right out of. I'm gonna leave the meeting and I'll talk to this.
Okay.
Okay.
So is this better?
Yeah.
Okay. So I guess the only point that I wanted to reiterate, and I totally agree with John, and the example he gave, I thought would be a great example of where something like this is important to have as it relates to the farming example that he gave. The only concern I have is if you look at, something that we already have in place where residents have the right to information, and we all know that that can be abused. That my concern is that if residents know that now they have a body, and perhaps they might have had one before in the legislature, but I don't imagine that might have been well known. But now we have something that's getting a little bit more profile, that, you know, anyone or any group that perhaps doesn't like the direction that we're going in, or a particular bylaw, can at the very least delay the bylaw by virtue of the fact that it would have to go through some process through this municipal committee before it can be you know, we can go through with it or not, or we may have to amend it or stop it or whatever the case might be, which again hampers our ability to get things done.
Your point's well taken, especially the fact some of these smaller special interest groups that are a little bit more militant or radical in their views could definitely use this as an abuse of trying to delay or remove some of the obstacles that they have in their path.
Yeah, that's basically my concern with this, is once you give people, you know, another place to go, they'll definitely use it. I mean, I can tell you from my experience, now that we've been a town, and Austin and Rob can tell you, once the residents of Ward 4 found out that they had somebody they could call, believe me, they're calling for everything. Even things that we absolutely have nothing to do with.
So I guess with that, like, do we want staff to get clarification?
Process.
I don't think we need necessarily a formal letter. I think we can ask the ELG if that's sufficient.
I think some good examples of what would be the use case of this as well from their perspective. Just want to hear what they have to say more than anything else.
And the process that would be involved.
Because once they become overwhelmed with requests, how are they dealing with the backlog? Like what is priority? Is any prioritized? Do we just continually shove stuff at them so nothing gets done? Like,
yeah.
They definitely owe us an information session, I think, at this point.
at least
It would be nice for them to highlight too, like they say that many of these authorities already existed. I would like to know, name them, like, because we're talking about this bill. You're saying here, that's his last comment. He wanted to reiterate that many of these already existed. So tell us which ones of these already existed in this new Bill 45. That would be really good to know, because if it's been in existence for the past however many years, then what are we talking about? Right?
What's the point?
What is the point right now?
Yeah.
But if it's already been in place, why did we have to have a bill?
Yeah.
Like this is what's confusing to me.
Well, I'm assuming it's more to do with the commission itself.
I think
setting up a
transferring
commission.
So that if that's all it is, we have nothing to really.
To funnel all the powers they already had.
Exactly, right?
Yeah, well, I agree. I think we just need more information.
So we can make those requests to DELG and update council.
I don't think we have, like, if it is exactly kind of what we have, it's just in a more.
Just formalizing it, the creating.
I would hope they would take any radical approaches. And we don't make decisions based on one or two people, right?
Exactly. Oh, wow.
I do trust the intent of the bill. I'm
Me
worried
too.
about.
No, I don't trust it at all. No, I don't trust it at all.
I trust the intent.
Yeah.
No.
I don't trust the language. Is where
I
I'm
just
at.
think it's like everything with reform. It makes,
It's
it's a good idea, but they have no idea where they're going.
They have
Implications.
Yeah.
The intent may be good, but the ambiguity allows for interpretation.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's the
And
challenge.
that is the problem.
If I were looking at this through the lens of a resident, I would see it as a good thing in the event that something radical happens for a municipality, right? Just from that
Yeah.
perspective.
Yeah.
I'm saying it from that perspective, but I don't know enough either.
Yeah, we need more information at the end of the day.
I'm saying radical.
So we can report back on,
But it's true.
Yeah.
on what that looks like or what they get back to us on, at some point in the future. I don't think we don't need to
All
motion
this
for
has
that.
already been in
We'll just
existence
seek-
for a
seek
number
the
of
update.
years, and it's just creating commission for it all.
Let's move on to item number 6, PPP, circular materials briefing.
So this is just a verbal update for council, just to make sure that it's on the radar. So there is an additional, what they call extended producer responsibility process requirement, whatever you would like to call it, that's going to be rolled out in New Brunswick. It's very similar when I was trying to wrap my head around what it actually was to the extended producer requirements that are currently in place for things like paint, electronics, those sorts of things. They're a little bit different depending on if it's paint versus electronics. But in essence, it's adding additional obligations onto producers. And so in New Brunswick, a stewardship plan was approved by a provincial body, which is Recycle MB. And then this is happening in many other provinces, but in New Brunswick, Circular Materials is the organization that's kind of rolling out what they're calling the PPP program. So in terms of, I guess, implications, and the reason we're bringing this today is because our region is in phase 2. So soon, more than likely, you will probably hear of a few headaches as some in region 1 roll this process out. This is not applying to us. We are in the second region that will be rolled out, which is, I would argue, to our benefit. And when you start hearing about it, it is different from region to region. So we're lucky to be in the Southeast, again, when we have a lot of numbers on our side. So the Service Commission is negotiating with Circular Materials on our behalf, which will basically help the dollar impact for us in the end. In essence, if I simplify it very, very simply, it essentially modifies what we know now as our conventional blue bag system, where either municipalities will be able to engage with Circular Materials through a contract, or have Circular Materials be responsible for what we currently have, mostly as our blue bags. So it's been referenced to us that more than likely the best or most prudent approach is to engage in the agreement with Circular Materials. And so the Service Commission is doing, like I said, those negotiations on our behalf. More than likely what it will mean is Circular Materials will provide essentially a subsidy or a fee basically to us to manage that service for them. And that's what you see that's different from province to province. So that's why it's good that numbers will be on our side. Otherwise, we could have a different contract in terms of dollar value than Three Rivers, than Moncton, than Riverview, than Dieppe. Everybody in the Southeast could be different, which obviously can lead to other problems as well. So the Service Commission has already asked for our information, like dollar values for contracts, those sorts of things. So they have that information they need from us as it stands. One flag that we do want to mention to council, other than making sure that you hear of this at a very high level, because details are still there's webinars that we're kind of still getting information on, is that it will have implications for us as it relates to waste collection contracts in the outside areas. So we're in conversations now to look at what that will look like, because they expire very early on in 2024, with no opportunity for renewals in the outside areas. So we have to go to tender. The former Village or Ward 3 contract expires at the end of 2024. So we'll explore opportunities to bring those together. Because at the same time, the Service Commission is exploring doing a regional contract. The cost is very expensive. The former Village boundaries, I think, is our lowest waste collection contract value, I think, in Salisbury, if not the second. So the outside areas do pay a significant amount. And so we're expecting to see that again as we go to contract or to tender for a short contract. So this will have implications because when this takes effect, it will affect what we now know. Hypothetically, it could, I should say, affect what we now know as our blue bag recycling stream. So we wanted to make sure that it was at least on the radar. It's discussed every month at our CAO meetings. My understanding is that it's also mentioned at the board level as well. So it's very much on the radar. We're lucky to be in Region 2. Some of the areas, I don't know exactly where they split, but I know that the Hampton, St. John area is going through this right now. So theirs is much more rushed, but we'll see as these conversations continue what actual implications will be. The main thing that's on our radar right now is it will more than likely affect contracts for next year. So with that, there's a lot of information on Circular Materials website. It's all public, including the draft contract. So the contract that we would bring to council is also public, with the exception of the cost, because that's negotiated municipality to municipality. In our case, it'll be regional, but everything else is there. If there are any questions, I can definitely answer what I may know, or bring it forward, or the mayor can bring it forward. I think there's a board meeting tomorrow, actually, yeah. So if not that, then I can bring it up at the next CAO meeting at some point. But we just wanted to make sure, because it's more than likely, I suspect it will come out with other regions going through this transition. And it will be probably a little bit more painful in some areas. Some places in the province don't even have blue bags right now, so that's gonna be a bit more challenging. So hopefully there haven't been any huge alarm bells raised in our region, but we wanted to make sure, because others will be talking about it, that we at least give a quick synopsis as to what was on the radar.
Any questions for?
I have a question that may not be related to that, but what drives the difference in cost in the outside areas for waste
Distance.
collection? Is it distance?
Distance is one, and there's also no councils to
Okay.
be accountable to is another challenge. There's also, they have different clauses in their contracts. So some of them went up anywhere between, they mentioned the number, but some of them, including ours, I think, went up as high as 70% last year in 1 year, because they had that ability to do that in the contract. So,
Force majeure, fuel prices?
yeah, that's one of them, yeah.
Okay, moving on to item number 5, closed session, land, local governance and legal. Do I have a motion to enter closed?
So moved.
So moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bannister. Any questions to the motion? No questions, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Reminded? You're not. Can I have a motion to rejoin the regular council session?
So moved.
Moved by Councillor Colwell, seconded by Councillor Dykstra. All in favor?
Aye.
Reminded?
Aye.
Motion carried. Moving on to item 6, mayor and councillor statements / inquiries.
Oh, I just took a bite of cream. I was just gonna say that graduation was beautiful. I just wanna make a note that it was pretty cool to see everybody at graduation and dressed up, and we've got some amazing young people in our community.
Certainly did. And I guess I would just ask, the clerk's office, where are we at in Canada in the participation challenge? Back and forth, I don't know, but.
I think we were in third before I left, but
Yeah,
I
I
should
think
have
so.
checked. So we are in a fight against Red Deer right now.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I'm sure you're doing probably 50,000 a day.
We are, yeah, so we're in third right now behind Red Deer and just in front of North Grenville, who is hot on our tail and is making sure that we know it. So
Okay, so just a reminder that,
A couple hours.
everybody counts, and let's finish number 1 in the nation, and then Saturday we have Canada Day celebrations in the park.
yes, that is right. From 11 to 1. Or, yeah, 11 to 1, yeah.
Yes,
Weather
I'm
permitting.
sending my regrets now because I'm out of town.
Weather permitting, yes. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
Gosh, so moved.
Moved by Councillor Thorne, seconded by Deputy Mayor Bannister. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Third, so.